Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Marvel Champions is my favorite board game of all time right now, and I've been lucky enough to play several games of it solo and multiplayer, getting a chance to try out all of the different heroes and enjoying my time exploring the different card pools and making all sorts of different decks to take on challenging scenarios. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at all of the different heroes for Marvel Champions. I'm going to rank them, give you my opinions, and put them into different tiers, and overall you'll end with my top 10 current Marvel Champions heroes. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. Let's rank all of the heroes in Marvel Champions. Before we begin, I want to give a quick overview of Marvel Champions. In Marvel Champions, you play as a hero from the Marvel Universe trying to take down a terrible villain. This villain has a scheme that they're trying to complete, and before they do, you need to eliminate them by reducing their health to 0. You'll take their modular encounter set and put it with others to create your own unique scenario, and then you'll be taking your own hero deck with its unique cards, as well as shuffling that with a chosen aspect, something like aggression or leadership, leaning into one of the game's different playstyles. But the shine here is from these heroes themselves, as they're going to have their own unique playstyles, thematic touches on their cards, special abilities, starting equipment, things like that that are going to make you feel like you are that character. Once you actually start the game, you're going to be using some cards to pay for others. There's a constant choice between impacting the board and setting up your hero with their own unique abilities and traits, and it's a satisfying feeling when you're able to tip the balance and eventually take down that villain. I recommend Marvel Champions to every board gamer. I think it's something you gotta try. My favorite board game of all time right now, that's Marvel Champions. Let's go ahead and start this list with our bad tier. These are the 3 heroes that I just never want to come back to, and you'll see that here in my explanations for them. Starting off with number 43, we have Groot. He features these growth counters that he's going to be collecting and then spending to take different actions at different power levels, and one of his biggest weaknesses is the fact that he always has to spend them when he takes damage, so he's not really reliably able to gather enough of them to actually do cool things, and it feels like you're not doing a lot on your turn when you're playing Groot, and that's something that I don't really like in this game, unfortunately. Now, one thing that I'm going to cover, though, in each of these different characters is my favorite card from each of their hero kits. This is a unique card that makes them special, and I think is thematic or just fun or interesting, and we'll talk about it here. So with Groot, we have We Are Groot, and I think it's an awesome card. You're able to spend up to 4 growth counters, so there's no restriction to how many you can actually spend or how many you need to spend, and for each one you spend, you get to put a tough status on a character. Love that. Tough is one of the best conditions in the game, preventing all that damage from you, and you can put it on allies, your friends. This is great in solo as well as multiplayer. So that is my number 43, bottom of the heap. This is Groot. Next we have 42. This is Wasp, or Nadia Van Dyne. Now Wasp has a special feature where she actually has 3 different forms. She's got her alter ego, her hero, and then her large hero, where you actually fold out the card. There's one more character that does that we'll talk about a little bit away. But the reason she's on the bottom here has to do with the fact that she just doesn't do a lot. She's pretty unimpactful when it comes to her abilities, doing some small passive damage whenever she's able to defeat things, or in her large hero form here, she's able to split up her basic thwart and her basic attack power onto different things, but it's only 2 and 2, so you're really not doing much, and the cards are also pretty overcosted and a little underwhelming. My favorite card for Wasp, though, is Pim Particles, and I think it's a bit even more of a detriment because Pim Particles here is actually seen in other heroes and just done better there, but this is Pim Particles whenever you spend it as a resource card. If you're in the giant form, you get to heal 2 damage, or if you're in the tiny form, you get to draw a card. I love resource cards that do interesting things, and the fact that you have a choice with this card based on the form that you're in makes it that much more exciting and thematic. So that is my number 42, that is Wasp. And closing out the bad tier, we have number 41, this is Valkyrie, or Brunhild. And her whole thing is she's got this Deathglow attachment that starts out of play, and she can attach it by paying its cost, and if she kills a minion with the Deathglow on it, she's allowed to unexhaust herself and then keep on going. It's a cool concept in theory, but unfortunately in the gameplay, it's not that exciting because a lot of her cards are pretty average when it comes to actually defeating things, but they also require a lot of setup and a lot of extra resources that she just can't produce and are super inefficient and feel pretty bad to actually play. My favorite card with Valkyrie is Annabelle Riggs. This is going to be used in Alter Ego. You can exhaust her to search for specific Valkyrie cards, try to get those combos, or in my experience, I use Annabelle mainly to just grab cards to pay for her other overcosted cards. So I'm using Annabelle as much as I can to just generate resources to actually have some turns where I can do stuff while playing Valkyrie. That's number 41. That is Valkyrie, and that closes out the bad tier. Next up, we have the okay tier. These are some characters that I think are fun every so often. They're not going to be characters that I ever ask to play very often, but maybe if we're doing a special thematic scenario, these will be the ones that I grab. And Bruce Banner, Hulk, here is new to the list on this okay section at number 40, and that has to do with some new cards that help with characters with more than 14 hit points, getting them some new ways to ready themselves and get special abilities. Bruce Banner Billionaire Hulk here is just a force of nature, 3 attack, 3 defense, no thwart, all about that damage, and then able to set up these gigantic plays with huge resource cards that he has available in that hero mode. Now, my favorite part about Hulk is his Crushing Blow card. He's got a very small hand size, so having these cheap events that are allowing you to be super efficient in your damage is super nice, and Crushing Blow takes advantage of the gigantic attack stat of Hulk, and if you're using attachments to increase that, doing what you're doing well at, it makes it so this card feels even better when you play it. You can only use the punch resources to play it, but you're going to have a lot of them because you are playing the Hulk, go figure. So that's my number 40, that is the Hulk. Number 39 goes to Gambit, one of the newest heroes. This is an X-Men character that focuses on charge counters in the hero form. You can spend these charge counters in order to increase the attack of your different cards as you play them, and this is great for multiple instances of damage because that entire card gets additional bonuses. Also on the Alter Ego, he's got this special effect where he's able to actually thwart in the Alter Ego mode, but what I found is you're really not able to do a lot of impact in the Alter Ego thwarting, and it's something that I don't really enjoy that much. Now, when it comes to Gambit, my favorite card in his deck is Rogue, Anna Marie, and that's because she's constantly going to be a 0-cost card with 3 health, 2/2, and also comes into play with toughness, -1 for each charge counter you got. It's just a super efficient card, and it also works really well with the team-up card for Gambit and Rogue, so you're able to get her out pretty consistently and use that team-up card, which is super powerful. So that's my number 39, that is Gambit. Next up is 38. This is Penny Parker, an SPDR suit, one of the Web Warriors, and she's got this really unique gimmick where she is actually going to have 2 unique identities. One is Penny and one is the SPDR suit. When one is in the Alter Ego, the other one is going to be set up in this inactive mode, and then when you're the SPDR suit, you've got the pilot interface with Penny Parker. And then her whole gimmick is that you can use your identities and your interfaces to either gain additional card draw, use them for their health, or use them to generate resources. SPDR has the smallest hand size in the game with only 3, so you're only having a couple of options every turn, but you're using all of the upgrades you've already played in order to pay for other things. So for example, you're in the SPDR suit, you start off with the Penny interface, so you can exhaust her to gain those resources to play the other cards in your hand. So the cards that you're drawing, you want to make sure that they're excellent. My favorite card in the SPDR kit is the Aunt May and Uncle Ben card. It's a great way to dig through your deck because your hand size is so small to try to find those upgrades to gain more resource generation so you can actually stay in the game and actually be taking down threats as they come out. You're going to exhaust this card, you reveal the top 3 cards if you are in Alter Ego, and then you add any of the SPDR cards into your hand, which generally are going to be upgrades that you want to play or cards that are going to search you more upgrades. So that is my number 38, that is SPDR. Number 37 goes to Jean Grey, or the Phoenix. This is a character who's psionic in nature, has the biggest base thwart stat in the game, able to use these psionic counters to generate resources, but on her flip side, she has the Dark Phoenix that's going to be a constant threat that will eventually come up and become a new loss condition for you. Pretty terrifying, but you have access to a lot of cool cards with that psionic trait. My favorite card for Phoenix, for Jean Grey, is her Mind Control card. This is a pretty expensive card, and now we have an ally that actually does a similar thing, but for this card, you're going to choose an enemy minion, and you gain control of it, it becomes an ally, and you get its stats as bonuses. It's kind of amazing when you're playing against these heavy minion scenarios with gigantic minions, because then you'll have these characters that just have ridiculous amounts of health, and you could defeat them pretty easily, but if you can get an ally that's going to last for a couple of turns that can do a consistent 2 or 3 thwart or damage, it feels pretty dang good, and that's what Jean Grey here, Phoenix, offers. That's my number 37, that is Jean Grey. Number 36 goes to Spectrum. This is another form-changing character that we saw with Wasp, except that hers are in a stack, and so you're going to be switching between your different forms, some that'll give you extra defense, attack, thwart, hence the 1/1 stat line, and then when you go back into your Alter Ego, you'll be able to reset that. Based on the form you're in, it's going to upgrade some of your certain cards, but my favorite card in Spectrum's deck here is Speed of Light, and it's so simple in how it works. You change your form, you draw a card, and it's a wild icon, so it's got a lot of versatility with how you use it, because you can use it for instances of those smaller bonuses when it comes to improving your other events, and it's so flexible, it's going to be a card that you're always going to want to see, and it makes that form change work. Always a card that you want in your hand. This is the Speed of Light. That's Spectrum, my number 36. And closing out the OK tier, this is Hawkeye, number 35. Clint Barton, he has a Alter Ego ability where he's going to grab his bow ASAP, and then he can exhaust himself to unexhaust his bow. The bow is going to allow you to play your arrow cards, and that's pretty important because that's the bread and butter of the Hawkeye deck. While being thematic, it's also pretty fun because they have different status conditions attached to them. You have ways to confuse and stun, you can deal damage to multiple enemies, but the card that makes us sing is the Hawkeye's Quiver, as it's going to allow you every turn to look through your deck to try to find specific arrows and store them under the quiver. This is awesome. It makes sense. You've got this quiver full of tricks, and then when you get into your hero mode, you're able to start throwing out those arrows, and you'll have something for every single single job that you need done. So that's my number 35, that is Hawkeye, ending the OK tier. And now we move on to the good tier. These are characters that I'm pretty excited to play overall. I think they have unique gimmicks, they work well, they have interesting deck building, and they work well in the multiplayer as well as the solo capacity, things that I'm excited to play. Starting off with number 34, we have War Machine, a character that's focusing on all of these ammo tokens. You're going to be flipping into Alter Ego and then flipping back, gaining ammo tokens, using them to play your cards, and then a lot of your attachments will have you spending ammo tokens to get extra bonuses. My favorite card, though, is one of these upgrades where you're going to, when you flip into hero mode, gain a free tough status. This is awesome because you have access to protection, so you're able to stay into hero mode longer, being able to actually spend those bullets on your cool event cards, and it encourages you to flip back and forth, recharging those ammo counters, and then getting back into the fight, fully charged up, got a tough status, you're ready to take some damage and hit that villain head on. There's the upgraded chassis here for War Machine. That's my number 34. Number 33 goes to Ghost Spider, Gwen Stacy. She's all about response abilities. You're going to want to be playing cards that have that response tag or interrupt, so that way you're able to get additional advantages. You can ready Ghost Spider, so she's great for defending, and you'll also have a lot of card draw in her web shooters that are going to also trigger off of those interrupt or responsibilities. My favorite card of Ghost Spider, though, is George Stacy. He's got this great effect where he's able to attach cards from your hand underneath him. You can do all sorts of different things with this when it comes to the deck building, and then you'll have these gigantic turns where you're able to unload George Stacy's cards and then just have this crazy turn of combos and combos. And with Ticket to the Multiverse, you can even unexhaust pretty much everything that you have on your board and then extend that turn to an even crazier one. It's great for finishing. So that is Ghost Spider, my number 33. My number 32 goes to Sam Alexander, or Nova, one of our champion characters. This one's going to have this resource generating helmet that you're going to get to unexhaust every single time that you use one of Nova's basic powers. And he's got this revolving mechanism around these wild icons where you can use them to get stronger abilities or to get a decrease of cost of your different cards. So cool resource generation there. And my favorite card from him is actually one of those wild resource cards. It's Connection to the World Mind. Just like we saw with Spectrum, this is a card that whenever you see it, you're just like, yes, I needed this. This is awesome. And it's just going to make my next turn even better. Connection to the World Mind does not count as part of your hand size. So if you draw it at the very beginning of the game, it's an extra card there. If you draw it when you're passing, when you're refreshing to your hand size, it doesn't count. So you just keep on going. It is so awesome because it's just a wild resource that's going to make all of your other cards work. That's Connection to the World Mind. That's Nova, number 32. My number 31 goes to Peter Parker, Spider-Man. This is a pretty generic hero overall with some resource generation of the alter ego and then an extra draw every time that it's attacked by a villain, but also extremely thematic, which I think is pretty dang awesome. You feel like Spider-Man when you're playing the character, doing backflips, webbing people up. It does a great job capturing the experience of Marvel Champions with the Spider-Man character. My favorite part of Spider-Man, though, has to be Aunt May. It's an amazing card, just so much value. You exhaust it while you're in your alter ego to heal 4 damage from Peter Parker, and generally when you're flipping down, you'll use this, heal 4, and then on the next turn, you're still in alter ego, so you flip it again, heal another 4, so you're healing 8 damage between 2 turns, and then you're back in the fight, ready to go, ready to take more damage, and then draw more cards with your special ability. Amazing card, and so cheap. Aunt May, you're amazing. Keep it up. So that is my number 31, that is Spider-Man. My number 30 goes to Drax the Destroyer, a Guardians of the Galaxy character that is such a fun gimmick and a playstyle unlike any other hero. His whole effect is that when he's in his hero mode, he's going to be getting vengeance counters every time that the enemy attacks him. And once he's got 3, he's at his max, he'll instead draw a card. And the attack of Drax goes up each vengeance counter he has. So you're going to be playing lots of cards that either heal Drax, prevent damage from being taken to Drax, as you're taking all of these attacks and powering up, and then starting to do massive damage once you've accumulated all those vengeance cards, and you're drawing cards left and right from taking attacks from the villain. It's an awesome playstyle, and one that I think is unique and interesting. His favorite card for me is Fight Me Coward. It's a 0-cost event, and when you see this, you just feel like Drax. You have so much value in this card, and it works perfectly with his effect. As your hero action, you ready Drax, you draw a card, and then the villain attacks you. That means you're getting more vengeance counters. You're deciding when the villain's hitting you, so you can control a lot of that, having people defend or having yourself set up with allies ready to take on that damage. And then also this card will replace itself and generally will draw you an additional card based on where your vengeance counters are. It's going to give you a lot of versatility with Drax, so that's my number 30. That is Drax the Destroyer. My number 29 goes to Logan or Wolverine. This is a X-Men character that uses health as a resource. He has a healing factor where he's going to be healing up a bunch, and just like we saw with Aunt May, he's got a gigantic recovery stat, so when you do flip down, you're going to basically be able to recover all of the way, and if you do that double back, gain more hit points somehow, you're going to be able to recover 12 in 2 turns. That's crazy. But the coolest thing that Wolverine has is the Wolverine's Claws. This is a passive upgrade that's going to allow him to play attack events at a discount by spending your health instead. And it's also going to give that card piercing, and you ignore the resource cost altogether. But the best card, I think it's the most fun, in my opinion, to play with this is Berserker Barrage. So you play it for free, you're dealing damage to enemies, and if it defeats something, take 2 damage, repeat it. So you basically get to keep on continuously paying for this, using those claws, defeating a line of minions, and you don't even have to play this one for free if you don't want to, because you'll have options in your hand if you'd rather allocate the damage elsewhere. It gives me that Wolverine feeling of just going off, taking all of this damage, but taking all of those enemies with me. That is Berserker Barrage, my favorite card for Wolverine. That's my number 29. My number 28 goes to Aurora Monroe, or Storm. She's got control over the weather. She has her own little weather deck that she's going to be cycling through. It's going to give her control over special abilities. She can gain Stalwart, draw some cards, gain Retaliate, and this effects happen to every character on the board. These are passive effects that she gets to control, and it's cool to coordinate with your teammates on when you want the different storms to come on out here. And my favorite card for Storm is actually one of the weather cards, and this is Thunderstorm. It's permanent, so it's going to be out there. Everybody's getting affected, and everybody's getting +1 attack. And then as soon as you flip into it, you'll trigger the special, which is going to deal 2 damage to an enemy. So you have lots of control when it comes to when you're giving this buff to everybody, how you're going to be taking the damage from it. Maybe you have allies or defense cards that prevent this, tough statuses, and then if you have a swarm of allies, you're increasing all of your damage output, and you're getting to utilize it before the enemy does, and that's a powerful thing. Super powerful when you're Storm, and it feels great to play. That's Thunderstorm for Storm, my number 28. Number 27 goes to Piotr Rasputin. This is Colossus, and he centralizes around tough statuses. So much so that when you're in hero mode, you can have an extra tough status. You'll be spending them to activate the abilities of your different cards, and then when you change into your hero mode, you gain an additional one. So you're utilizing and manipulating tough status cards, and I think it adds a lot of flavor to all of these different defense options. And when you are in your alter ego mode, you're going to want to flip back into hero mode as much as possible to keep on getting those tough statuses, and Armor Up does this in a thematic, super cool way that's also extremely efficient. So you're going to flip back into your alter ego mode, and there's ways that you can shuffle cards back into your deck so you can keep on recycling these Armor Ups, and then when the villain activates against you, you change form, you flip back into hero mode, get your tough status, trigger all your other abilities, and then you're attacked, so that means you'll lose it, and you'll have a lot of abilities that trigger from that as well. It's a great way to dodge the threat that's going to be added when the enemy schemes, and it's also thematic, interesting, and cheap, so it's going to be one that when you see it, you're like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. You'll play it, you'll feel great. So that is my number 27, and that is Colossus. My number 26 goes to T'Challa, Black Panther, character that focuses all about these Black Panther upgrades and spamming Wakanda Forever. And my favorite card is actually Wakanda Forever, so much that there are 5 copies of it in the deck. It's a 1-cost event that triggers the special ability of all of T'Challa's Black Panther upgrades. So it doesn't start with any on the board, but you are going to be gaining them as you play, and they're going to have special effects that trigger based on the sequence in which you play them. For example, you have the energy darts here that will deal damage to the villain and to each enemy you're engaged with, or just direct damage with the claws. You have cards that remove thwarts, some that will heal you, and it's up to you how you put the sequence of these to actually happen and the pace at which you're playing these out onto the board. Even just getting one of these effects off with a Wakanda Forever feels pretty great because it's such a cheap, efficient card, and the more that you can get out when you decide to switch between that dealing with the threat now and engine building, it just feels even better to play those Wakanda Forevers. So that is my number 26, that is Black Panther. My number 25 goes to Kamala Khan, or Miss Marvel, and she's got this playstyle where she's flipping back and forth between hero and alter ego. She's got a lot of her friends in alter ego mode, so you're using their effects pretty dang often, but when you're in that hero mode with Miss Marvel, you'll exhaust her in order to recover the events that you're playing. So you can get back these awesome defense events, reuse things that you actually need immediately, so extra thwart or extra damage. But my favorite part of Miss Marvel's kit is Embiggen as well as Shrink. These are similar cards that are going to buff the abilities of the events that you play. Very similar to what we saw with Gambit, this is going to affect the entire card, so if you use it with multiple instances, you're going to get those on both of those effects, and it feels great when you're able to make a card just even better, and it's something that will stay on the board, and you can activate for attack with Embiggen here, or with thwarting with the Shrink. That's Miss Marvel, that is number 25. Number 24 goes to She-Hulk, a character who also loves flipping back and forth, because every time you go into her hero mode, you get to deal 2 damage to an enemy. She's got a giant health pool, so you're able to use those readying cards and special cards that we saw with the other large characters, but you'll also have this hand size that you're going to be juggling between, because you're going to be switching from 6 to 4 every so often. Huge hitter, but one of my favorite cards for her is Gamma Slam, the biggest hit she's got, and this has her using her health as a resource, like what we saw with Wolverine. And when it comes to her resource as health, she's going to be using these upgrade cards in order to deal damage to get additional card draw, and you're going to be always towing that line of trying to get your health down as much as possible, so So when you do get that Gamma Slam, it's as powerful as it can be, dealing up to 15 damage. And then you also have her basic attack, which can get up to 18, and then her effect when you flip. So this could potentially be a 20 damage card. And when you're playing solo or 2-player, that's a gigantic chunk of damage and can be an amazing finisher. So that is She-Hulk, my number 24. Number 23 goes to Miles Morales Spider-Man, and this is a character that rotates on these special tags that are on his hero mode. Most of his cards will say activate Venom Blast or activate Spider Camouflage, and these will deal special abilities, gaining extra damage, stun, tough status, confusing. You're basically using all of the status conditions, and you'll have all of these cards that interact with those status conditions. My favorite card for Spider-Man, though, is Double Life. This is a once per round effect that's going to allow you to play with your alter ego forms, getting to use all of those different upgrades. You'll be able to change your form, and if you pay with it with a punch resource, you get to ready yourself as well. So you're getting extra activations and extra alter ego exhausting. And this can be really helpful when the villain throws out cards that require you to exhaust yourself in different forms, and particularly in the Sinister Motive sets, there's lots of cards that require you to get into alter ego in order to do something, and I think this works perfectly for that. So lots of flexibility and huge amount of power. That is Miles Morales, my number 23. Number 22 goes to Ant-Man, and this is very similar to Wasp, where you have those 3 different forms, but the third form is the giant card that you actually will unfold. Whenever you switch into one of these forms, you'll gain some special ability. When you go to alter ego, you heal. Big, you deal a damage. Small, you're going to remove a thwart. So very simple in the play pattern, but a lot of fun as you're moving back and forth. My favorite part of Ant-Man's kit is his helmet, though. As soon as you get that out, you feel like you are flying. Every time that you change to giant form, you're healing from yourself, which is great because you can just take damage and just keep on switching back and forth to get more bonuses. And then when you switch to tiny, you get to get additional card draw. It's always great to switch into the different forms, so just getting more for that feels even better. That's my number 22. That is Ant-Man. My number 21 goes to Vision, another form-changing hero that does it just a smidge better than Ant-Man because of all of the different control that you have and the timing and when you're going to make that shift. Vision's got 2 different forms with his density manipulation. You can either go into your intangible mass form or your dense mass form. When you're in dense mass form, you're going to get extra stats, being able to actually attack and defend, and you're also going to get to draw a card when you flip into it. But when you're intangible, you take 2 less damage from every single attack, which means that you can take on all of these minions and just, yes, shower in damage that you're actually not taking anything from. You also have a lot of cards that play into these different forms differently, and my favorite card is Viv Vision that does a great job of using that form to increase her own stats, and it's different than we see with all of the event cards. You're able to grab this card back consistently with one of Vision's support cards, so Vivian, as soon as it hits your cycle, you're going to be playing this card pretty much every single turn and being so efficient with it, getting that 3 thwart and 3 attack. It's only 2 cost, it shares traits with Vision, with the Android trait. This is just going to be a card that's always on your board as soon as you got it. So it's a great one that when you see it, you're like, yes, it's time to go. So that is Vision, my number 21. So those are all of the good characters. Now we move on to the great characters. Thematic, interesting, fun, lots of different ways to deck build for them, but just missing that best category. Starting off with number 20, we have Quicksilver, one of my favorite characters to play in as protection. This is going to offer you a special ability where once per phase, so this is during the villain activation and your own activation, you're able to unexhaust yourself after you use one of your basic powers. So you'll attack, immediately ready yourself, and then be able to do something else. You can do double thwart, double attack, you can play cards that increase those different stats, and you're always going to have access to these cards called Always Be Running, 1-cost events that get to ready yourself even more. So you get to reuse those basic stats, and it benefits you from investing in yourself, which I think is pretty cool. And then on the flip side, when the villain is doing their thing, this means that you're pretty much always getting a defend in, which means you can play a lot of these cards that require you to exhaust yourself, so it feels great when you're able to actually do stuff on your turn as well. Quicksilver is so much fun when it comes to that, and one thing that really pushes him over there is his friction resistance. This is probably the best card in his entire kit. It's a 3-cost upgrade that every time you exhaust it, it's going to generate a punch resource, so you'll use that to be banging all of your cards. But whenever you ready Quicksilver, you also ready this card. This means that you're able to use it during the enemy phase to play for defense cards, use it on your own turn to play all your different events. This card is so versatile, and you're pretty much always going to get use out of it, so it feels great once you slap it down, as you're going to get so many resources you won't know what to do with them at some points. So that is my number 20, that is Quicksilver. Number 19 goes to the Guardian of the Galaxy, Agent Venom, Flash Thompson. He's got 2 different things going on. First off, he's got this weapon theme where you're using restricted keywords, able to hold extra because they got these extra holsters for all your different guns, ways to tutor them, and you also have this focus on pain for cards with all of a specific resource. For example, if you pay a bunch of brains, then you also get to remove threat and get to confuse the enemy. So you're always trying to balance what your different cards are, maybe go down specific paths, but built into Venom, you have a way to take damage to generate wild resources so you can make those hands work just perfectly. Awesome for resource generation, getting you into that game early, but my favorite card for Venom is actually that tutoring card, Locked and Loaded. You search your deck for a weapon upgrade, add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Extremely simple, but the fact that it doesn't say a Venom weapon means that there's going to be a lot of versatility for it. You can use it to grab dumb cards like grenades, you can use it to grab specific aspect cards, or get the cards that are pretty essential to Venom's kit. So it's up to you how you want to use this card, but I think it's a lot of fun, even though that is so straightforward, because it allows you to access the playstyle that you're going when you have that deck construction going on. That's my number 19, that is Agent Venom. My number 18 goes to Captain America Steve Rogers. In his hero form, he can discard cards to get additional readies. In his alter ego, he's able to play allies at reduced costs, and the coolest thing about Steve is how simple and straightforward he is, but thematic and powerful. When you play as Captain America, you feel so powerful with your versatility. You're able to get into any situation, offer up your thwart, attack, and defense, and then your cards are super efficient while also being fun to play, and that's a huge thing when it comes to Marvel Champions. My favorite card from Captain America is his Shield Toss. So thematic, so awesome. You play it for free, you discard as many cards as you want, and based on the amount of cards you're discarding, that's how many targets you're hitting for 4 damage a piece, and then your shield goes back into your hand. This is perfect. This is one of those perfect cards, in my opinion, where it pairs the thematics and the mechanisms amazingly, and you'll see that as we keep going down this list further. So that's Shield Toss for Captain America, my number 18. My number 17 goes to Doctor Strange. Stephen Strange, the master of the mystic arts. He's got an invocation deck that's going to go on the side of the character that's full of these super powerful spells. You exhaust Strange, pay the cost of the card, and then you'll get to use some amazing spell invocation event. Now, you have a lot of control over the events in your invocation deck, but my favorite card leans into the power of them, and that has to do with the master of the mystic arts. So when you play this one, you're able to use whatever's on top of your invocation deck without sending it to the bottom of the deck. So you get repeats on these powerful spells. There are some cards that allow you to draw extra cards, some that pump out tough statuses, some that will switch the status conditions on different characters. So you have a lot of flexibility with Master of the Mystic Arts, lots of power and control that you've already had just being Doctor Strange with those invocations, and Master of the Mystic Arts really pushes it over the top. So for Doctor Strange, he's one of the strongest characters, I think, in the game, and in the next character as well. These are two characters that I bounce between when I'm just looking to soar and fly in Marvel Champions, feeling so powerful, but having a fun time ratcheting up the difficulty as high as I want, because I know that these characters can take it. So that is my number 17, that is Doctor Strange. And on the other side of that coin, number 16 is Spider-Ham Peter Porker, another one of my favorite characters to play the hardest difficulties on with. Peter Porker's effect all revolves around him taking damage and generating toon counters. When he's in an alter ego, he's got 5 recovery, which is amazing, and able to generate toon counter after he does recover, but when he's in the hero mode, every toon counter on him can be spent as a wild resource. Already the implications of that are crazy, because every time Spider-Ham takes damage, he gets 1 toon counter. There's a lot of cards that will deal damage automatically to Spider-Ham, lots of cards in the game in general that are going to deal single instances of damage to gain additional counters. There comes a point when you're playing Spider-Ham that you can pretty much play whatever card in your hand at any time, and it's so empowering, especially when you're playing on those crazy difficulties, because you're welcoming this damage. And my favorite part about Spider-Ham, though, is the way a lot of his cards will deal with the damage manipulation, and one that shines greatly is Petulant Pig, and this is particularly great during the early stages of the game. You play it, it's free, you stick your tongue onto the villain attacks you, you draw 3 cards. This is very similar to the card that we saw with Drax, where it's going to trigger all of your other things, but this card replaces itself because you get a toon counter when you take the damage. You draw 3 new cards, you're probably going to lean into this even more. It's pretty integral for getting that game and getting that ball rolling, and it's just powerful in general. Whenever you see it, you're going to always feel that temptation of wanting to play it and getting those extra card draws. So that's my number 16, that is Spider-Ham. My number 15 is Nebula, and she features a new type of upgrade card. These are techniques. Whenever she's in the alter ego and you play one, you get to draw 2 cards, so they basically replace themselves, and then when you're in your hero mode at the start of your turn, you're going to use all of the special abilities on these different techniques. These could be things like dealing extra damage, dealing thwart, but while they're in front of you, you also get passive abilities, like for example, Cutthroat Ambition here would give you piercing and overkill while it's in front of you, and at the start of your next turn, it will remove 3 threat from a scheme. So all of her cards are delayed when you play them, but I think it's such a great play pattern, as all of your cards are cheap, they feel great, and you're getting to make plans for the future while also getting minimal bonuses in the moment. So it's a really rewarding play style, I found. She's also a Guardian character, so you've got a lot of access to cards there, but my favorite card for her is one of her shining alter ego pieces, and it's going to be one of the reasons that you love switching back and forth, besides that extra card draw from playing techniques and being able to bank them. When you play Combat Ready here, this 0-cost event, you have an option. You can either shuffle your techniques back in, or my favorite option, you discard cards on the top of your deck, deck until you discard a technique, put it into play, and then immediately resolve its special ability. This is so powerful because you're able to do something in Alter Ego mode for absolutely free, get additional advantage right now, and then it also carries on to your next hero turn where you're able to use those techniques again. Such a fun card. The fact that it even has options just makes it even better. That's my number 15. That is Nebula. Next up, we have Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, and actually very similar to Nebula, but with a bit more control. Natasha Romanoff has these preparation upgrades that she's going to be revolving around. You're going to want to be in your Alter Ego because then you can draw cards for playing them, but then in your hero, whenever you actually trigger one of them, you're going to deal damage. So preparations are these cards that trigger when specific conditions are met, like a minion is played, but my favorite one here is whenever a treachery is revealed, you get to discard these preparations to do something. In the case of Grappling Hook, the best card in this one for sure, you get to cancel the effects of the entire treachery card and discard it. This means keywords like Surge, Insight, all of them are gone, not just the when revealed. So you're always deciding on when you have that Grappling Hook out, are you going to stay in your hero mode to make sure that this card is live and active, or do you have that time to afford to flip back into Alter Ego to do more setups to get more cards, or you're giving up that opportunity to potentially interrupt something with Grappling Hook that you might need to. So it's a cool choice, and I love how that ties into the switching between Alter Ego. And there's also a bunch of neutral upgrades and preparations that you can use with Black Widow. She's just a really fun character to play as you're anticipating all of these things while also being proactive on when you want to use them. So you got a little bit more control than Nebula, which is why I think she's a bit higher than there. But both amazing characters. That's my number 14. That is Black Widow. Number 13 goes to one of the core heroes. This is Captain Marvel. Lots of card draw in this pack. Also gigantic resource cards. You're able to give somebody a card draw from Alter Ego mode. And then when you're in hero mode, you can heal by spending lightning resources and get additional card draw. So you got all of these ways to dig deep into your deck, getting these giant resource cards, allowing you to play amazing cards. And my favorite card in her kit is this super cheap one as well, Energy Channel. It's a zero cost upgrade. You just throw it out there at any time, one per player, but you can spend as many lightning resources as you want as an action to put energy counters on there. This is a way of banking additional resources, and if you are playing Captain Marvel, you're generally going to have a lot of lightning in order to activate all your other abilities. So having a way to just funnel extra resources in for damage that you can save and use whenever the moment calls for it, it's a great feeling, and Captain Marvel does it really well. So that's my number 13. That is Captain Marvel. My number 12 goes to Jessica Drew, or Spider-Woman, and she comes into play with a unique deck restriction, and that is that you have to play two different colors, two different aspects when you're making her deck, having equal amounts of each. And this is so awesome because that means that she's going to make unique deck combinations that no other player can do, pair different allies and upgrades so that you have these awesome new combos that only have access in Jessica Drew. So awesome. But that doesn't stop there, because Spider-Woman's hero side leans into the different aspect cards, because every time that you play a different color, she's going to get +1 to all of her stats for the entire round. That includes your turn and the enemy turn. And even some of her hero cards have different aspects that are different colors. So you're going to have leadership cards, you're going to have protection cards already built in to Spider-Woman's deck, so you can play up to 4 different colors in a single turn, getting her all the way up to a 5/5/5. It's amazing. It feels so good. And my favorite card for Spider-Woman is Self-Propelled Glide. It's a 1-cost event that takes advantage of these stat bonuses as you get to ready Spider-Man, gain Aerial. Aerial doesn't really matter that much unless you're building your deck for that, but just getting that additional ready for a 1-cost up to 5 extra of whatever you need it for feels amazing. That is the Self-Propelled Glide. That's Spider-Woman, my number 12. And that brings us to the last hero of the great tier. This is number 11, Adam Warlock. Similar to Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, Adam Warlock here has a special deck restriction where you have to use all 4 different aspects in his deck and equal amounts of each. But another condition here is you cannot use more than 1 of each card. Normally you can play 3 of a card, but with Adam Warlock, you can only play singletons, and this is a deck archetype that I love in card games. Playing singletons of specific cards means that you have a little bit more randomness in general, but you're trading the consistency for unique combinations, and the fact that you're playing all 4 colors is super fun to me. I like that you're just seeing more different cards in a game, and it's a lot of fun. So Adam Warlock also is going to take advantage of all those different colors of cards with his special ability, Battle Mage, where once per turn he can discard a card from his hand, and that's going to give him a special ability based on the aspect it's from, getting extra damage, threat, healing. It's super fun as you're able to think about how you want to play the different cards in your hand. If you want to actually put them out, use them for Battle Mage. And my favorite card in his kit, which which here is Mystic Senses, allows you to draw additional cards after your battle mages, so your sequencing of these discards is even more important. I enjoy his playstyle quite a bit, but my favorite way to play Adam Warlock is to play Jank Adam Warlock. I love making a deck of 40 awful cards and then just playing all of the worst cards and playing on like the easiest setting. It's so much fun to me playing just all the bad cards in Marvel Champions, because I'll be using a lot of cards that I normally don't use, so I'm able to learn about these different ways, these interaction points, and it's just a great way to explore the game in my opinion. A lot of fun. This is Adam Warlock, my number 11. So those are all of the great characters. We move on to the final category here. These are the best heroes in Marvel Champions, my go-tos, my recommendations. These are the ones that I think you should go out and get because they're just so dang fun, so interesting, so thematic. These are the best Marvel Champions has to offer. Starting off our best category with number 10, we have Iron Man, Tony Stark, the best core hero. Tony Stark's alter ego is going to allow you to dig for cards in your deck, drawing 3, keeping 1, discarding the others as you're searching for your Iron Man armor. Once you've assembled your armor completely, you're going to get additional hand size when you're in your hero mode for each of the tech upgrades that you're able to grab. You can get your hand size all the way up to 7, so your early game is assembling the suit, getting piece by piece as you're getting extra special abilities that you can activate by exhausting them, and once you've assembled the suit, you have ultimate power as you're able to deal with all of the threats. It's such a fun play experience. I love the constant search of all of these upgrades, and my favorite card in his entire kit is actually a pretty subtle one. That is the Rocket Boots upgrade. It's a small tech upgrade, so it does increase your hand. It's easy to play, gets you an extra hit point, but you can spend a brain resource in order to give yourself the aerial trait until the end of the phase. A lot of the other upgrades for Iron Man are going to give you extra bonuses for being aerial, and there are now a bunch of cards out that care about the aerial trait, so when you're doing your deck building, you're going to want to think about all of this as you're constructing. It's a lot of fun to lean into these different categories and different traits, and we'll see that with some of the other heroes later down on the list. But I love this gameplay of getting all these upgrades and then using them constantly. I love having just things that I get to exhaust and use small abilities for, and I think that Iron Man does it really well. That is my number 10, that is Iron Man. My number 9 goes to Riri Williams, or Ironheart. And very similar to Iron Man, Riri is going to be spending a lot of her time building up her suit, but this is done in the form of these progress counters. In alter ego mode, you're going to be spending resources to generate them, and then once you actually get into your hero mode, a lot of your events are going to reward you with counters for defeating enemies. And as you play, you're going to be spending your counters in order to ready Ironheart and level up her armor into the different versions. You start with version 1 here, which has a pretty small hand size, but similar to Iron Man, you're going to be leveling up into larger forms of armor with new tags, new special abilities, and extra ways to deal extra damage and deal extra threat. But a cool thing about Ironheart is not only are you searching for these specific pieces, but also what you do is going to dictate how fast you're leveling up. Whether you're defeating minions, whether you're getting rid of all the threat on different schemes, that's going to dictate the rate at which you're doing things and gives you more choices on how to pursue the immediate threats on the board, which I find extremely rewarding. One of my favorite things that Ironheart also offers are that some of her cards will scale based on what level your armor is. So they're super inefficient early in the game, but as you play, you're going to be playing these cards and getting all of these bonus effects, and it feels so good to do so. This new and improved card here has a 3-cost event. We're going to be choosing X options, where X is your Ironheart level. So the higher up you are, you get to do all of these things. You get to search for a specific card. You get to get a tough status. You get to ready her. This is amazing. You have all these choices, and your choices just open up as the game progresses. I love the sensation and feeling as playing as Ironheart. You've got a lot of the same trappings as Iron Man, which is why they are pretty close in relation. But I think that the additional tags, as well as the overall experience and the added choices for Ironheart, is what pushes her just a little bit far ahead. So that is my number 9, that is Ironheart. My number 8 goes to Gamora, another character with a deck building ability, but this time it's just a bonus, as you're able to include up to 6 different attack or thwart events from different colors. This is awesome as you have even more deck building, something that I love in characters in general. But Gamora also has this special feature where she's focusing on you playing those events and getting rewards for doing so. Every time that you play an attack event while you're in your hero mode, this is once per phase, you get to remove a threat from something, and then vice versa. After you play a thwart event, you're going to be able to deal a damage to something. And this is during the phases, so you can also do that with reactive cards, which is going to put you into that deck building mindset of how you can get the most bonuses from Gamora's different actions. I love this as it encourages you to play events, chain them, combo them. There's a lot of Gamora's cards that will do additional things if you play specific types of events beforehand. So you're trying to set up these awesome turns, and the game is pushing you to play cool cards. My favorite thing about Gamora, though, the favorite card has to be cross counter. This is an event card that is also a defense. It's attack, defense, and thwart, so you're playing it on the enemy turn, which means that you're triggering all of your different bonuses. You prevent damage, you deal damage to enemies, you remove threats from schemes, and all of these are separate instances, so that means that you can choose where your pings are going with your special ability as well. It's awesome as you're able to make numbers work just right, set yourself up for your hero turn, and a lot of the times you're going to be playing this card for free because it's an attack, defense, and thwart, so most of your resource generators are going to be able to actually let you play this card for free. Love this one. That is number 8, and that is Gamora. Number 7 goes to Kitty Pryde or Shadowcat, and oh my gosh, this character has just been continuously climbing up the ranks because she makes me want to play Protection, and that doesn't happen very often. Protection is definitely my least favorite of all the aspects, but Kitty Pryde Shadowcat allows you to, when she's in her phased form, as she's going to be switching back between her solid and her phase, whenever you play a defense card or whenever you are defending, you cannot take damage. And that means that when you're playing a card that says defense on it, like we saw with that Gamora one, you take no damage and you still get all of the benefits from that. And this is amazing because a lot of the times you don't even have to exhaust yourself to do so, and you're constantly flipping between your phased and your solid forms, and so you're trying to make sure that you time things right, use the different efficiencies from each in order to make sure that you're blocking all of this damage. It's such a fun puzzle to interact with, and I think that this is one of the coolest X-Men characters out there. I love the entire playstyle of Shadowcat. Now, my favorite part about Shadowcat is one of her defense cards that comes in her kit, and this is an interrupt, defense, superpower, 0 cost, and if you're in solid form, you change to phase form, which means you don't take any damage, but if you're already in phased form, you just draw 2 cards and then prevent all the damage. This card is amazing. This is one that you see and you're like, yes, I have quick shift. Life is going to be okay no matter what. You can anticipate when it's coming, and when it does, it feels so good, and there are multiple of these in the deck. So that is my number 7. That is Shadowcat. My number 6 goes to Star-Lord. Peter Quill, leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy. In hero mode, all of your allies are going to gain the Guardian trait, giving you access to lots of different team boosts, abilities, ways to play attachments. In your alter ego, you're going to start off with an element gun, be able to switch some cards with the top ones of your deck, but your hero ability, your what could go wrong interrupt, means that every time you play a card from your hand, you can reduce the cost of that card by 3 and deal yourself an encounter card. This is so much fun as it's so risky. The effect gets better when you're playing with more people because you have more buddies to help you deal with all these extra encounter cards, but the fact that you always have that option of dealing yourself extra grief in order to gain power right now, it's such a fun trade-off, and a lot of the times I find myself just getting overwhelmed because of what I've done to myself, but it's such a fun playstyle, and it's something that you're always going to want to think about, like, ooh, I could play this and this if I deal myself an encounter card, and it's so gratifying when it happens. Oh my gosh. And a lot of Star-Lord cards are going to lean into this, gaining additional abilities when you take additional encounter cards, and one of my favorite ones is the sliding shot ability. And this is a 3-cost event, so ooh, it's perfect. It's exactly 3 by dealing myself an encounter card. You can only play it if you have an element gun, but it deals 5 damage plus 2 more for each encounter card that you have on yourself. So if you're going through like an entire turn where you're dealing yourself card after card after card and then ending with a sliding shot and dealing like 15 damage or something ridiculous, that's so awesome. Like, you never even have to deal with those consequences of the different cards that you've been dealing yourself because you've already won. You've done your big finish here with sliding shot, and you can set up so many combos where you're able to deal like 50 or 60 damage in a single turn, and in the solo mode, for sure that's enough damage. You definitely don't need more, but in the 2-player, that can even be enough to take down the entire villain by yourself. Amazing playstyle and so much fun to engage with. Great in the solo mode as that temptation is always there, and then your buddies are able to help you out in the 2-player mode. It's a wonderful playstyle. That is my number 6. That is Star-Lord. My number 4 goes to Thor, Odin's son. In his alter ego mode, he's able to call out his hammer Mjolnir, but when you are Thor, you're all about the battle. With the have at the ability, when you engage a minion, you get to draw 2 cards. This is once per phase, but that means that if you're able to draw a minion during the enemy phase, you're drawing up to a 6-hand size. There's lots of cards that are able to summon minions to yourself, so you're able to get up to 8 cards when you're in this hero mode, and there's even ways to increase your hand size with other things like the Asgard attachment or just Avengers Mansion, getting extra card draw, being able to do amazing Thor things. You've got the Asgard tag, 14 hit points. You have access to all of these different ways to get free readies, use your amazing stat line once you play Mjolnir, getting that 3 attack up there. Your aerial, so you have access to all these awesome cards, and more aggression cards are coming out that are feeding into this archetype archetype of summoning minions to do things, and it's so satisfying with Thor because you get the best reward of all for doing so, getting to draw more cards, getting to do more things. My favorite card for Thor leans into this playstyle a lot, and this is Defender of the Nine Realms. And this allows you to not only get a minion onto the board, allowing you to draw 2 cards, it's also going to be an event card that's easy to play. It's a thwart event, removes 3 threat from any scheme, so you have so much choice and versatility, and it does exactly what Thor needs to do to get his engine going. You feel pretty relieved when Defender of the Nine Realm comes out because you can deal with the thwart with a single card, and you can focus on fighting the enemy as well as the minion that you've just challenged. I love the thematics of this. This is another one of those perfect cards in my opinion. I think it does Thor perfectly. That's Defender of the Nine Realms, and Thor overall, that's my number 5. My number 4 goes to Cyclops. Scott Summers, the leader of the X-Men. During deck construction, you can include X-Men allies from every single aspect, meaning that you can make the perfect roster for your X-Men team. He also has a specific focus on the tactic upgrades. These are a new type of card that were introduced with Cyclops. We're able to attach them to enemies, whether it be minions or the big bad, to give them debuffs or give your own cards buffs when attacking them, whether it be extra card draw, reducing consequential damage, reducing their attack stat. You can search for any of these in your alter ego, finding the perfect tactic for the job. And when you're in your hero mode, you can use Optic Blast to spend resources to do extra damage to the characters that have those upgrades on them. I like that Cyclops' stats lean into thwarting and defending, and then his abilities are what actually do the damage. You can also pair that up with the Ruby Quartz Visor, spending the resource generated by it for free in order to get piercing and range on your Optic Blast. And then my favorite card here is the Full Blast effect, an event that you can exhaust yourself, so instead of thwarting or defending, and get extra attack damage on your Optic Blast. It feels amazing, thematic, and you're guaranteeing that you've taken down that enemy that you're having trouble with. But one shout out that I gotta make sure that I give to is for the obligation for Cyclops, and that's the Lost Visor. It's perfect. This is the perfect obligation. When it's drawn, you give it to Scott Summers, you find your Ruby Quartz Visor wherever it is, you put it under the card. While it's out, Cyclops can't attack. You gotta scramble, you gotta find how to get rid of that visor, how to make sure that this card is gone, because you exhaust yourself, add the visor back to your hand, and then remove the Lost Visor from your game. This can come out at terrible times, but it can also come out at not that terrible times. You're like, ooh, I was looking for that visor, and hey, your Lost Visor has now been found. Excellent thematics here with the Lost Visor. That's the obligation. That's my number 4, that is Cyclops. My number 3 goes to Rocket Raccoon, a character that's just been continuously climbing in the ranks the more that I play him. He's got an alter ego effect where he's able to discard tech upgrades to draw extra cards, leaning into that specific strategy. He's got his own tech, but you can also pick all of the different options from the different aspects, but the hero mode is where he shines, and that's with his Murdered You response. After you're ever going to deal excess damage to an enemy, you get to draw a card, and this happens in multiple instances. This is a very similar playstyle that we've seen with Thor, where you love having these different enemies on you because you get bonuses for dealing with them. You're going to be playing those cards that draw out enemies. You're going to be trying to engage and deal with as many as you can to get the extra card draws. There's a bunch of different abilities in aggression in particular that give you extra bonuses for overkill damage, ways that you can increase the amount of overkill damage, and you can lean into this as hard as you want while still being flexible and interesting, because as you can see, the stat line on Rocket Raccoon is he is great at thwarting, so he has cards to deal with that as well. You're a guardian of the galaxy, you have access to all of these cool upgrades and abilities. My favorite card for Rocket Raccoon leans into that attacking, and that is Schadenfreude. It's a 2-cost event, and when you play it until the end of the turn, you heal 2 damage every time you deal any amount of damage to an enemy. So I've had turns where I play Schadenfreude and heal all the way up to full health while also dealing so much damage, drawing a million cards. It feels amazing, and as you can see here, I live for the simple things, and absolutely, Rocket Raccoon does it with Schadenfreude and his entire package. What a great character, so much fun. Love going between the different modes, using his 2 different focuses, that overkill and the upgrades. That's Rocket Raccoon, my number 3. My number 2 goes to Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, the Queen of Chaos, a mystic on both sides, able to get additional card draw, searching for specific combo pieces in her alter ego mode. But once you get into the hero mode here with Chaos Control ability, you're able to modulate the encounter boost icons on the cards that you'll be drawing. And why do we care about this? Well, Scarlet Witch has pretty much a third of her cards dedicated to these hex bolts here. They're 2-cost events where you're discarding cards from the top of the encounter deck and getting abilities based on what you discard. You're able to deal damage, remove threat, draw cards, play status cards on characters, and that's any status cards on characters, and so you're able to change those different abilities with her Chaos Control effect. I love that you're always diving into the encounter deck, using it as a power source, and benefiting from these terrible atrocities that would have hit you during the enemy phase. It feels so good to ride this randomness and play super tactically as you are, in 2 words, going off. You're drawing cards constantly, milling cards, getting effects here, there, lots of chip damage on everything, and it's such a gratifying experience to be able to play all of the different Mystic cards and lean hard into this controlled randomness. Now, my favorite part about Scarlet Witch, though, has to be her chaos magic effect here, and the fact that you can just do dumb stuff with Scarlet Witch, and that's the biggest thing for these top 2 characters, is you can just do dumb things, and that's one of the greatest things in deck building, in games, that you can do such weird stuff, and it works because of the power level of these characters. So Scarlet Witch is by far one of the craziest characters with how much she can do, but the chaos magic leans into that. 0 cost event, wild resource, spell superpower, and you can play a card from your hand ignoring its cost. Think about that for a little bit. Think about all of the applications that you can do with this. You can make Scarlet Witch a web warrior. You can make Scarlet Witch whatever you need her to be, as you're playing all of these cards for free, making sure that these combos that shouldn't work happen, and you have so much card draw as a Mystic that you're going to be getting chaos magic into your hand pretty consistently, getting to use it to play these crazy powerful cards, and then filling the rest of your turns with these Chaos Bolts, Hex Bolts, as you're using all of your abilities to change this situation extremely tactically. It's so much fun to play Scarlet Witch. That is my number 2. And my number 1, the best hero in Marvel Champions, is Anna Marie, or Rogue. This is a huge surprise to me, but she is by far the coolest character in the entire game, giving you access to your entire collection and allowing you to do so many things you honestly wouldn't have thought possible until you start running it and see how it plays. Now, Anna Marie in her alter ego is going to have a touched upgrade that you'll set aside, but once you flip into your hero mode, then you're allowed to attach that touch to something. Once you've attached it, you gain the traits of that character that you touch it, and it's a character. This means it can be your allies, it can be the enemies, it can be your fellow hero, and you gain their traits. So for example, I was playing against Ultron the other day, attached to Ultron, all of a sudden, Rogue is now an android. Think about that for a second. You have access to the entire card pool now, not just because of the characters that you're playing against, but the cards that you're including in your deck, the allies, the person that you're playing with, and you can do so many fun things. I was using the reboot card to get free readies on rogues, free healings, because now I was an android, and you also gain special abilities based on your touch card, based on what you're touching. Getting Overkill, Retaliate, Aerial, Stalwart. This gives you so many different options when it comes to deck building, but also tactical play during the game. And the greatest part about this is not only is the deck construction important, but the play in the actual game is huge as well because of the access to the discard pile. When you're playing Rogue, my favorite card here is Superpower Adaptation. This is going to allow you, if your touch is attached to a friendly character, search the discard pile for an event that matches that character's classification. So if it's Identity, Aspect, Basic, this means that you're able to use your discard pile as a secondary resource, getting additional events and modulation and choice to your hand, opening up the entire landscape of the game. This is amazing. This is the coolest effect, and the fact that you can do some crazy actions. We were playing a Rogue Rocket Raccoon game the other day, and I was playing Rocket Raccoon, and I had Anna Marie play Schadenfreude, so that way, whenever Anna Marie dealt damage, it healed Rocket Raccoon from my discard pile. It was so cool. This card by itself allows you to do things that just aren't possible in Marvel Champions and elevates that gameplay to an entire different experience. Rogue is the best character in Marvel Champions right now, and that has to do with her touched ability, superpower adaptation, and just the entire openness and freedom you have with this entire experience, the entire system. Amazing character. That is my number 1. That is Rogue, the best character. And that's it. Those are my favorite heroes for Marvel Champions, the best of the best. All 43 of them. What are your favorite heroes in Marvel Champions? What did you think of the ranking overall, the list in general, how I set it up? What are your favorite cards for my favorite heroes? What heroes do I need to give some more plays to? And what heroes do you think should be moved around on the list in general? I'd love to hear what you think and what you think about Marvel Champions. Thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.